From famous to a little obscure, we're now tackling The Revenge of Shinobi. And yeah, this game is, it's pretty good actually. I'm kind of surprised not a lot of people talk about it. I mean, sure, you'll get people talking about, like, a lot of games from the time period, but this is relatively obscure, or at least it seems to be. And the reason I'm tackling it is, well, not a lot of people have actually tackled this game. So the story is that, basically there was a crime syndicate called Zed, and Joe Musashi, which, yes, was the character that I named the character of Shadow after in my Final Fantasy VI LP, but that's neither here nor there. And Joe Musashi was the one who stopped Zed. However, they came back stronger than ever, and they killed a lot of ninjas. And this includes the chief ninja, and they killed Joe's master and stole his bride-to-be, Naoko. At least I think that's how it's pronounced. But this game is going to be a very long road. Actually, I'm just kidding. So this is the Mississippi King, welcoming y'all back to my next LP, The Revenge of Shinobi. On this, we're actually going to be playing on Easy Mode. No, I'm just kidding, of course not. We are going hardcore here. This is going on hardest mode. We are not pulling any punches. This is like hardest difficulty 0 shurikens. It's actually not that hard. Of course, it can be tricky for newcomers, but I still find it to be pretty easy. I mean, it's not the easiest in the series, not the easiest game I've ever played, and I did find it to be pretty difficult initially, but this is going to be a long road ahead. Actually, no, it's not. It's going to be very short, but why are we talking about roads? I mean, roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads. And anyway, Zed has now been replaced with a crime syndicate called Neo-Zed, which is stronger than the original one. And now we need to stop them. And so we're gonna make him an offer they can't refuse. As for the boss, all I've got to say to him is I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kinda lost track myself. But being this is a 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world and would blow your head clean off, you've gotta ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do ya, punk? And you may be asking, like, why all the movie references? Well, it's because Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. And with these movie references, you never know what you're going to get. But no, actually the real reason for all of the movie references is because, well, this game is chock full of them. Get used to this game referencing a lot of movies and whatnot. It's just filled with them. And I love that. That's partly why I'm LPing this game, not just because it's a very good game that not a lot of people have LP'd, at least no major LPers, so I'd like to give it a shot myself. But also, that this game is full of movie references, and that just makes me so happy as a film buff. It satisfies my inner film buff to be able to quote so many movies as I tackle this game. Anyway, I feel I should actually explain the game's mechanics. So basically, on the top of the screen, as you can see, there are 4 icons, and you have 4 jutsus to use. And the first being the jutsu of Ikazuchi, which gives you a shield that protects you for 3 hits. Actually, 4 hits, what am I saying? And it basically gives you some invincibility as well. You can actually walk through enemies. And that's one thing that I like about this game, is that it actually has pretty modern forms of hit detection. Like, you don't take any damage unless you actually take a hit. Like, they only damage you if they attack you. If you just run into them, then it will look like you're taking a hit, but you won't lose your power-up, which increases the amount of damage you do and gives you the ability to block, and you'll be able to keep going. You will still be knocked back, and that is an issue with this game. I'm not a fan of knockback, as I've said before, but I still think that it's pretty fair that, like, the enemies don't actually harm you. That is, unless the enemies actually, if their actual body possesses something that would realistically damage you, like, say, something like a blade, or like they're something sharp or whatever. But other than that, the only things they have that damage you are their actual attacks. And that's pretty good, I like that. And about the other ninjutsu, I should probably explain them. The one I'm using right now here in Tokyo, that's actually the place's name. It's one thing that I'd highly recommend for both stages, although, I mean, since we don't get another one for the second part of round 2, but I'd recommend it for the first part. I believe it is possible to beat the first part without the jutsu of Fushin, but basically that allows you to jump higher, which may not sound that useful, but it's actually a lot more useful than you may think, because there are a lot of tricky gaps. So you can fire shurikens, and when you're up close to enemies, you can attack them with your sword if you're powered up, or with your kick or your kunai if you're not powered up. And the boss for the first round is Blue Lobster. That's actually its name. And for the round 2 boss, that's Shadow Dancer, which is not to be confused with Shadow Dancer: The Secret of Shinobi, which is a different game with a very different gameplay style. That's neither here nor there. The 2 other jutsus you get are the Jutsu of Karyu. It's a screen nuke, basically. It kills all of the enemies on screen and heavily damages bosses. But it does not harm you, and it comes at no cost other than, like, an actual ninjutsu opportunity. And the other thing that you have is the jutsu of Mijin. It's the strongest jutsu in the game, it does the most damage, however, it also comes at the cost of 1 life. You also get a full refill of health. What's interesting about that is you can actually use the jutsu of Mijin on your last life. Why? Why would they allow you to do that? That doesn't make any sense. That's just bizarre. Anyway, for this boss I would recommend using the Jutsu of Ikazuchi, where you can easily just butcher him if you have a power-up. I mean, look at this, I'm just shaving off his health like crazy, and he's already dead. That is a ridiculously easy boss fight if you do what I do. But Anyway, now we're moving on to round 3, which is called the military base. And this actually introduces a number of new enemies that will become staples through the rest of the game. The first are these soldiers that fire guns, and you can actually block their bullets with your power-up. And it also introduces soldiers that throw grenades. But another thing that it introduces are bald Rambos. Yep, for some reason they just thought that, oh, we'll just include some bald Rambo guys. That's kind of neat, actually. You can actually block the flames from the flamethrowers of these bald Rambos, although it's not recommended because it's kind of finicky. And you can also block the grenades that the guys that throw bombs throw, although that's, again, not recommended, especially not that, because it's really tricky and kind of finicky. Anyway, this game also has a double jump, and I mention that now because it's actually kind of relevant because you need to do a double jump in order to jump between the two layers. There's a front layer and a back layer, and by doing a double jump, which is where you jump at right at the height of your normal jump, it's not like most other games, you have to be a little precise with it, and it can be pretty tricky to pull off to people who aren't familiar with it, but of course I've practiced this game a lot, so it's pretty easy for me. And it's very useful, and when you're in a double jump, you can also fire shurikens, and you'll fire 8 of them. But what's interesting about that is that it will count as 8 even if you only have 1 shuriken left. So, like, you can have just 1, and you'll still fire 8 when you're in that somersault, but it won't actually count as, like, 8. So, you can use that to your advantage, especially if you're low on shurikens. On another note, this game may actually look a bit different from previous games I've LP'd, and well, that's because I've actually switched to using component cables. So hopefully the picture quality should look a lot clearer and much nicer, because this time I'm actually recording it using component cables. Whereas before I was using composite, which I gather has pretty inferior picture quality, and I do think it does look nicer myself, but I don't know if y'all can tell from, like, the screen or anything. Another thing that may make this look a lot better is I'm also recording this on a new capture card, the Hauppauge HD PVR2 Gaming Edition, which allows me to record in 1080p 60 frames per second. So hopefully the footage should look a lot smoother because it will be recorded in a higher frame rate. Although I'd like to hear whether this actually makes it look better. I'm mostly doing this for my audience. I don't particularly care for the increased quality. However, I suspect a lot of people do. I mean, I know a lot of people do. And so I'd like to appease them, I guess you could say. This is all really done for my audience. It's not really something that I'd go out of my way for. I've also switched the console to 480p instead of 480i, so it should look less fuzzy. Anyway, I don't know the name of this boss here. It's, some sort of supercomputer. And also, you may have noticed that there's a lack of info cards. I really couldn't find out any information on much of this game, although I did find the names of the rounds. But that will be it for this video. This is the Mississippi King signing out, and in the next episode, we'll tackle 3 more rounds. See y'all then.